I'm Rabbi Alan Tufts, and I'm speaking to you from my study here at Temple Bethel in Hollywood, Florida. Our Torah portion for this week is actually a double portion. It's made up of two portions, nitzavim and vayeilech. We are getting very close to the end of the book of Deuteronomy. As a matter of fact, we only have one more Sedra, Ha'azinu, and then before you know it, we will be at Simchat Torah, that festival during which we celebrate the end of the yearly Torah cycle and the beginning of the yearly Torah cycle. Nitzavim, that first Sedra of this double Sedra, has a special place in Yom Kippur liturgy. We read passages from nitzavim on Yom Kippur morning. What is it about Sedra Nitzavim that makes it relevant to Yom Kippur? A question that we have to answer before we answer that question is, what is the central message of Yom Kippur? The central message of Yom Kippur, or at least one of the most central messages of Yom Kippur, is that we must take responsibility for our own lives. We take responsibility for our moral and ethical existence, and we also take responsibility for living according to the mitzvot as laid down in the covenant between God and the Jewish people. And they include the study of Torah and participation in worship and the performance of deeds of loving kindness. In Sedra Nitzavim, we read that God speaks through Moses to the Jewish people practically on the eve of their going into the promised land. And God says the following to the Jewish people: I establish this covenant with you today, with the heads of your tribes, with your officials, with your elders, with the men, women, and children of your community, with the sojourner, the ger, which later on meant the converts within your community. I create this covenant also with the people who carry your water, who cut your wood. I establish this covenant with you who are standing here this day, and also with those who are not with us on this day. God goes on to say, do not believe that the Torah is across the sea someplace, that you have to wait for someone to get it for you. Don't think that the Torah is in the heavens above, that someone has to go up there and get it for you. Lo b'shamayim it says. The Torah is not in the heavens above, but it is as close to you as your own mouth and your own heart. Notice how the Sedra goes through and eliminates almost every excuse that you could possibly come up with for not being a full participant in Jewish life. It starts off with the leaders of the community. It's almost as if it's saying, don't think that you're too important to pray, too important to study Torah, or to be involved in the moral and ethical precepts of Judaism. You might be on a synagogue board someplace looking after very important matters, the fiscal health of your congregation, but you must also be a full participant in the religious life of your people. And don't say, because you're a woman, for example, that you don't have to participate in the service. Maybe using that old excuse, well, Judaism was a patriarchal religion, and it's up to the men to do it. And don't make that excuse that so many men make today, that religion is really something that the women should look after. Maybe your mother or your wife. No, every man is to be involved in this covenant. And don't say that, oh, I don't have much of a Jewish education. What do I have to bring to the table? I don't even know how to participate. No, it's important that everyone, people who know a lot about Judaism, people who don't know so much about Judaism, to participate. This reminds me of a class that I taught many years ago when I was a young rabbi. The class was about sacrifices made in ancient Israel. And we are commanded in the book of Leviticus only to bring the most precious, the most perfect animals for sacrifice in the temple. Animals without blemish. Well, I'd read that passage over and over again, and it never meant anything special to me. But I noticed in the class an older man. He was raising his hand kind of reluctantly. He wasn't so sure that he had something worthwhile to say, and I called on him, and he said, "You know, Rabbi, when I was a young man, I made my living by raising cattle, and I did this for many years, and I kept the most perfect cattle as my breeding cattle. I didn't slaughter them, and they were my best. They represented my future, and it must have been a great sacrifice for our ancestors to offer to God their cattle without blemish." And you know, I was blown away by this. This man, who didn't know a lot of Torah, knew something about the Torah that I didn't know at that time. He brought into the classroom with him life experience and insights that were unique to his life. And that's the challenge here. We should know the tradition as best as we can, know what people in previous generations have said and how they have applied the tradition to their lives. But we must also know that it is perfectly okay. It is actually required for us to bring something of ourselves into the tradition, to make the tradition our own, knowing that the Torah is as close to us as our mouths, as close to us as our hearts. Shabbat Shalom.